Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is another episode of the Bunker Boys here with George and Slade. We got our Jack Wagon Sports polos on. We had a great week watching the match play. We're excited to break all that down for you guys and get you ready for the Valero Texas Open this week. Of course, eyes on the prize for next week. It is Masters Week, but we will get there in due time. We want to focus on these two tournaments to start. There will be no highlights this week. We got a DMCA strike last week for playing those highlights, so have to figure something out, but no highlights this week, but still plenty to talk about, and we are excited to get into it. So without further ado, as always, let's go ahead and get started with our sponsor, which is W Energy. Head over to w.gg, use code JACKWAGON, and get 10% off your order today. That'll really help us out. And also, we wanted to remind you guys to head over and check out our merch. We'll bring that up in a little bit. But without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's dive right into the Dell match play review. Sam burned the field. Sam Burns, it just had him cover this week. I just want to go over. He ran the gauntlet. He went 3-0 in his group. Didn't lose a single match the entire week. His group, I would consider probably the easiest one out of everybody this week. But still, it was no easy task, I should say. He had Adam Scott, who is a veteran, played on many Ryder Cup teams, is very familiar with the match play. He has Seamus Power, who has had a really good start to the year, kind of struggled here as of late. And then he had Adam Hadwin, who had a really good WM Phoenix Open and is always a threat on the PGA Tour. So he beats all three of those guys. He moves into the bracket. His first round is against Patrick Cantlay, a Team USA guy. We've seen him on many Ryder Cups, many President Cup teams, and he, a veteran of match play, he goes out there and he takes care of Patrick Cantlay. Slade was sad to see that. And then he moves on to Mackenzie Hughes, who was a big surprise, and we'll talk about upsets here in a minute. He defeats him. Then he moves on to Sunday. He plays Scotty Scheffler first. But they played 21
holes.
Took a while to get that one decided, but he comes out with a late birdie to get up over his best friend, Scotty Scheffler. I don't think the announcers could have brought up any more of how good of friends those guys were. And then he moves into the championship round, and he defeats Cameron Young. Cameron Young had the hot hand all week, really going into Sunday. I thought he was the guy to beat, and I didn't see that ending any other way. So let's go ahead. So Sam Burns defeats Cam Young 6-5, and then over in the third place match, Rory defeated Scotty Scheffler 2-1. Everybody was coming in this Sunday was very hyped on the possibility of getting Rory versus Scotty. Everybody thought it was going to be the championship match, but here was third place. Regardless, I was still excited to see this matchup one way or the other. But Slade, just your overall thoughts on the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Burns ran the gauntlet. He went 3-0 in his pool play, and then he really, I mean, I think that he started out with his hardest match of the first two there in bracket play against Cantlay. Hughes, like you said, was a surprise to get there. I really didn't even think that. I think he beat him 2-1. I did not think that it would be close. I thought that Hughes' so-called luck would run out, and he'd end up having a 6-5 like he did against Young in the finals here. I would like to have seen Cam Young and Burns maybe face in the semis just to be able to see that match, and then have him face either Scheffler or Rory in the finals, just because, I mean, you saw him and Scheffler go 21 holes. If that would have been the final, it would have been crazy. It would have ended the weekend really great. And then also against Rory, I think Rory would have been able to compete against him pretty hand in hand to where it would have went down to like the last one or two holes.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to talk about Sam Young, or it's not Sam Young, Cam Young. But a lot of fuss was made this week about he just switched caddies. He gets Webb Simpson's old caddy. And I gotta say, I mean, we have known Cam Young's potential. We've seen how good he can be. He had second place finish at the Open Championship last year. Has yet to win, but he's shown he's one of the most consistent. He's right up there neck and neck with Rory as one of the best long drivers in the game. Somebody that you and I are both excited about. I think with this new caddy pairing, we saw a few times. I think in the championship match, he was a little bit tired. He was kind of worn out from. He had a grueling gauntlet himself of people he had to roll
Hmm.
through. His group was not easy, and so I think Sunday it was kind of wearing down on him a little bit, and you saw the frustration show through more and more. But in the group play and leading up to that championship match, there was times where he wanted to get upset, but his new caddy uh, did a very good job of keeping him calm, keeping him on track and on focus. And that's what he was able to do so well getting into that championship match, beating big names like Rory in the semifinals. And so I just want to give a quick shout to him. And I'm very excited to see where he's going. His first win is coming. I mean, we're going to talk about Masters Fantasy next week, but I already have him penciled into my lineup. Um, One thing I want to talk about real quick here is speaking of people I penciled into my lineups. Who were some of your biggest upsets this week in the match play tournament?
Yeah, so I mean, I have two. In terms of group play, it has to be Speed. I mean, he lost to both Lowry and Montgomery in his group. I wouldn't have seen him. I mean, I could have seen maybe have a bad day and tie against one of these guys, but just straight up lost both of them. I did not see that coming. Um, he definitely had a rough weekend in general. I mean, last week we had talked about how this is a course that's right near where he went to college. That we would have thought that he'd have, I mean, at least tons of rounds more than people like Lowry and Montgomery have at this course. You would have just thought that it would have been like playing at a second home. Um, just didn't seem like that was the case this weekend. And then in the round of 16, I mean, we love Homa, but Hughes over Homa and doing it 3-2 was pretty crazy. I mean, I think that Homa got hurt or hurt his chances by having the whole day off the day before.
Yeah.
Getting that medical withdrawal um, against who was it?
Matsuyama. Matsuyama.
Yeah. Having that happen, I mean, he had the whole day off. I'm sure he practiced, did some things like that, but he didn't actually get to go out and play 18. He didn't get to actually, go out and hit shots from these different areas that he hadn't yet seen, which would have been really, I mean, beneficial for him. And that happening, I think that that's what hurt him. Obviously, Hughes went out, and beat him handedly. So, I mean, you got to give your hat off to him. But yeah, that was the biggest upset for me.
Yeah, so I did the same thing. I did a group play and bracket. Bracket was the same as you, Max Homa. I thought the day off could kind of be good for him and refreshing. And just because he had a really tough group to get through. One thing, just looking at Matsuyama quick. I mean, he won the Masters 2 years ago. Has won tournaments here and there, but you haven't seen consistency out of him since. And I know he's dealt with some injuries here and there, and was dealing with it this weekend. So I was a little surprised to see him still in the field for this week, and a lot of experts picking him. I thought he would have really liked to enjoy that week off, and then head into the Masters, kind of refreshed a little bit and relax. But we'll see how he does this weekend. Hopefully, he's healthy and can stay healthy for the Masters. Because Homa said it best, when he is healthy, when he's at his best, the game is a lot better. That Masters, coming down the wire with him a few years ago was so much fun to watch, and when he's healthy, it is fun. Um, as far as group play, I went with John Rahm going 1-2. I mean, you and I were both excited when Rickie Fowler beat him, but only getting one win, and that win coming against um, I'm looking at him, I can't think of his name. Keith Mitchell. He beat Keith Mitchell, and then Billy Horschel, who was a well documented, very good player in match play, setups. We both expected that to be a lot closer. I think everybody did. And Billy Horschel kind of kept him at arm's length the entire match. Rom could just never get any momentum. And so that was a little surprising. I expected him, again, to turn one of those into a tie. I really wanted him to turn that Horschel one into a tie, so that way we get Rickie, into a little playoff there, but didn't happen. My other upset, and I was alluded to earlier, I have Cam Young penciled into my Masters lineup. I've had Zalatoris penciled into my Masters lineup all year just because he always does well there. Uh, Ever since coming back from his injury, I have yet to see anything from him
Mhm.
that kind of signals that, yep, he's back to his form and he's going to be good to go. He was putting absolutely atrocious this week. I think he had like a 3-foot putt at one point and just hit it 6 feet past the hole. So I'm a
There
little
was no
concerned there.
gimmies.
Yeah. So I was a little concerned to see that, and as a Zalatoris fan, that's not what you want to see. He goes technically 0-3, but really 0-2, and then he just conceded his last match. Just gave up and didn't want to come back. And Honestly, I don't blame him with how he was playing. The other upset I have written down here was Hovland going 1-2. Again, somebody comes from the European side, is very experienced with match play growing up and in this style, and has been playing super well all year. He just could not catch any breaks, and that's what match play does, and it brings out is, you know, these guys. It kind of amplifies when they have one or two bad holes, and you let the other guy get momentum and get up on you two or three holes. It's difficult to come back. We saw Scotty Scheffler was able to make multiple comebacks. I believe he was down 3 in the semifinal. He came back and actually had the lead for most of that.
I think
And
he went
just
down in every match.
yeah, I believe he was down. I think 2 holes in every match this week,
Yeah, it
and
was
was
all at
able
the
to come back.
beginning.
Yeah, but was able to come back and win all but the last 2. But a lot of these other guys, they just weren't able to flip that switch, like Scheffler was. So those were my 3 big upsets. Moving on, one thing I want to touch on really quickly, that is concerning me, and I've seen some other people talking about this, here recently, is the fact that NBC's coverage is, I would call it concerning. The amount of commercials, every time they come back and they show 2 or 3 shots, I think the most I've seen this week was like 6 shots in a row. And then I don't mind side by side. I get that we need to get through commercials, but I like that because we can still see golf going on. It's the full screen commercials that are absolutely killing me. Um, so I just want to get your opinion on this and see if you have any concerns about their coverage because I first noticed it back around like the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Players, and the week after the Players, which was the Valspar, they were still running commercials for the Players Championship. But that was mainly NBC. This was the first week that I noticed that was really going on in the Golf Channel. I think it had been before, and I just never picked up on it. But I just want to see if you have any level of concern or anger towards how they cover it because you and I both watch NASCAR a lot. There's been a lot of heated debate about NASCAR's coverage or Fox's coverage of NASCAR with the
Mhm.
multiple commercial breaks and missing a lot of key moments. So, as somebody who's experiencing that, on the other hand, are you as worried or as upset with NBC and their golf coverage, or are you just kind of brushing it off?
In comparison with NASCAR, I think it's a little different. I think we get more side by side coverage of the the commercial and the race going on at the same time. I mean, it seems as if in the final stage, there's only one actual commercial.
Hmm.
The last couple of races that I've gotten to see that it was just a full commercial, no actual action of the race that you're able to see.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that this goes down to, and I think that it's you have it pinpointed to a certain time. I think this started when they tried to start competing with Live. The
Yeah.
elevated events, I think that this is their way of making more money to be able to get those bigger bonuses with the elevated tournaments. I think that this is the only way that they've found that they're able to do that through advertising. I mean, you can't really put any more advertisements on the course. You've already got the entire tee box advertised up. You've got all the golfers with advertisement all over them. You've got the caddies, the bags. I mean, you got everything around the green. Is
Yeah.
I mean, this is the only thing that they could do aside from I don't know, putting a camera on the balls and like in the little bottom corner have some sort of ad. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think that this is the play. I think that golf needs to realize that, or the PGA. I think that the perfect way to get away from this is to just go to ESPN Plus for it all. I mean, I know that they're not going to do that. NBC is like it goes back to being like the good boys club. It's always
Mhm.
been with these guys. It's the same people announcing all the time. That's the reason that you had said Burns and Scheffler. You heard about them being best friends since they were like in diapers or whatever they wanted to
Yeah.
say 17 times. Is because these dudes are like 70 years old that are commentating on this. This is, I mean, you can only talk about Scheffler hitting the ball 5 feet into the rough so many times before you go back to the same 5 key points that they handed you on a card.
Yeah.
Um, I just I think that anything that has multiple groups or matches happening at the same time, that ESPN Plus is above everyone else right now in that you can watch multiple things. The only person that has really come into competition with that, which we had found, you had found earlier in the year, is YouTube TV, where you can do the multiple screens. I think that was what you had said, right?
Yeah. So you can't do it right now. We could only do it during the tournament, but they're supposed to be like fully launching it this fall.
Mhm.
But I did want to say, it's like for me, this is just mainly an NBC problem, and NBC owns the Golf Channel, and I get that. Um, I I personally cannot stand Paul Azinger, and I know I talk to you guys about it all the time. But I swear to God, if I hear him one more time when somebody's over like a winning putt or a huge putt to like maybe go up, like he did it so many times to Jordan Spieth back at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, when Spieth was trying to mount a little bit of a comeback and get some momentum behind him. Every time I stood over a putt, Paul Azinger goes, "Okay, so this week he's 15 of 15 from this range," and then he missed the putt, and I'm like, just shut up. But then the next hole, he kind of lines up for the same kind of putt. I'm like, okay, we just talked about it last hole. We don't need to talk
15
about
to
it again.
16.
Yeah, he's like, all right, he's 15 to 16. I'm like, shut up. Like, wait until he hits the putt. Be like, okay, that makes him like I just can't stand when you sit there. It especially when you as an announcer, you have to understand that there is an announcer's jinx. I don't care how not into superstition and stuff you are, but just the amount of times you see an announcers, not in just golf, but every sport all around the world every time they go to talk about somebody, something usually happens to that person. Whether it's if you're talking bad, something good happens, or vice versa. But in golf, it's usually, oh look how good he's playing this week, and then the next drive is over into the water. Um, but yeah, I personally really can't stand Paul Azinger, and that kind of would build up the hatred. Golf Channel, I kind of simmer with a little bit more because he's not on there yet. And I can deal with it for the 2 or 3 hours it's on before it flips over to NBC. Um, but it's to me, it's so night and day because, like you said, ESPN Plus, I feel like is really good. Their commentators can get a little bit annoying, and they're much better. Last year, when I watched more and more golf, I think last year might have been the first year they had golf on ESPN Plus.
Hmm.
It was the first year I watched golf on ESPN Plus, I should say. I forget what tournament it was, but at one point the announcers were like arguing with each other like over the air. And I'm sitting there going like, what is going on? They're definitely getting better. Still not my favorite, but they're getting better. But CBS's coverage is just night and day, so much better. And they do really great job with their commentary. Jim Nance is obviously, I mean, the voice of our generation for
Hmm.
football and golf and college basketball. Um, and it's just so difficult to go from great coverage by CBS and everything that they're doing to integrate more into the game. They were the ones, at least as far as I know, that introduced the let's interview a player as he's playing this hole. I believe the first time they did that was their first coverage. It might have been the Farmers. I absolutely loved it. That was cool, and now I know NBC does it as well. Again, they might have introduced it, and I just didn't notice it before, but I believe CBS introduced it, so that's what I'm going to say for now. Um, but I just their coverage is so much better when they do commercials. It's usually pretty quick, and they do a lot more side by sides. I feel like, and so I just can't stand NBC's coverage. Like I said, I think the tipping point for me going back was at the Valspar Championship watching, and they were running commercials for the players that was the week before, and I just thought that was dumb. But
I
get
think
a
that it
little
also goes on like how you watch it too, because
yeah
based on what you're saying, you're watching it like volume on, like you're sitting there and that's where all your time's at that like that's what you've set
mhm,
aside your time to do is watch that or whatever. Though I don't even watch it with freaking volume sometimes because
yeah
that's why I like talked so highly of the ESPN Plus version of how you're able to, because if I want to watch the full coverage or whatever where they're going to go to like the big shots and stuff like that or the whatever, then that's what I watch. If I want to watch just Rory play, then that's what I click on. If I want to watch like the Scheffler Homa group and it's two separate groups playing, like that's so I just like that aspect of it in that
yeah
I can just watch whatever I want to watch. I don't want to watch Montgomery hit the ball into the woods for 3 holes, and then oh, now we're gonna switch over to Scheffler and watch him after he
yeah.
just eagled on a hole and we didn't get to see it.
Right. And I will say I understand how difficult it is to not include a ton of commercials, especially when
Mhm.
you're doing match play in a tournament style where you're showing less and less groups as you go throughout the day. And like I don't envy the position they were in where you have four golfers out there and it takes 5 minutes for them to get to their next shot and kind of get set up. And so the match play tournament is not what I was upset about. It's just this has been a trend over multiple weeks now that we've
Mhm.
seen. But we just got to get through one more week of NBC, and then the Final Four is over this weekend. The Masters obviously goes to CBS, and it starts their long run throughout the summer. So I'm excited for that. Um, we talked about this a little bit last week. This will be the last year for the Dell Technology Match Play tournament, that the style that it is in now. I don't think it's perfect by any means. We really enjoy it, but again, there's been major flaws. They've tweaked this format throughout the years. So Slade and I were both gave each other the task of going out and creating our own individual perfect match play tournament. So Slade, I'll let you go first. Describe to me what your perfect match play tournament would be.
Yeah, so I talked to you beforehand. I said that I had labeled this the best week of golf outside of a major, for everyone except the players, basically. It's quite the week. I put it as the first tournament of the year and an elevated event so that it forces the top 50 players in the world to play in it. Um, Obviously, they're not going to like that, but it's for the fans, not for them. It's the first week. They can take a couple weeks off if they need afterwards after playing this many rounds. But the way that I have it is set up similar to the Dell, but there's going to be pools of 5 instead of pools of 4. I kind of put this. I don't know if you remember like the New Oxford Wrestling Tournament and how
Yeah,
there was pools on Friday night and then Saturday, Sunday was the tournament. Similar to that. So there's pools of 5, and we're going to play at a course that has 2 18-hole courses, similar to what was the Windy X course that they played at earlier this season, where it was
I
you were playing on the
know.
north or the south?
Yeah, Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach has when they
Yeah,
do
that's
the pro-am there, they have 3 courses, and then um, Torrey Pines has 2 courses. They have a north and south course.
yeah. So they would need to play on 2 courses for this to work, obviously, but 3 would definitely help. But so the winner of the pool advances. And so from the 50, you'll go down to 10 after pool play. And so we would do that by the 50 people playing 2 18 rounds each day on Wednesday and Thursday. That would get their 4 pool play rounds out of the way.
Okay.
The top person or Friday morning, you would play like your sudden death playoff, whatever the deal is, to get that tiebreaker. But with a group of 5, there shouldn't really be too much of that. There obviously is going to happen, but
Yeah.
then Friday it would go into bracket play with the top 10 players. At this point, it goes off of your world ranking. So whoever is the top 2 is going to get a bye for the first round because of it being 10 players, and the other 8 will play in a round on Friday, or on Friday morning. The winners will then move into what would be called the semifinals. The semifinals is where the first and second seed players would get to play their first round. This Throughout this bracket play now, your score goes with you. So
Okay.
say the 10 seed upsets the 7 seed or whatever in the first round, and they were 3 under in total for that round. And then they go into the second round for that day 1 on Friday. And they win again. They upset the 3 seed now or whatever, and they do 6 under this time. They're now 9 under.
So kind of like the tour championship does. So like
Correct, correct.
it's okay.
And so there's going to end up being 3 people out of this bracket that go into Saturday and Sunday play. These are going to be the 3 top players. Now, mind you, if the 1 and 2 seed win theirs and make it into this, they're going to be at a deficit because someone already played 2 rounds on Friday versus
Yeah.
just their 1.
Mhm.
Obviously, they could go 10 under, or they could have
Right.
some sort of stellar thing. It could be Scheffler, and he's the top person still. But then Saturday, Sunday, they'll just play 1 round of 18 on Saturday, 1 round of 18 on Sunday, and the best person gets the championship. With it being an elevated event, it would be obviously a lot more money. But in total, this would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possible rounds that they would play in this time frame or whatever. I mean, I know it's a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
but I would like to see it as a fan.
Yeah. I could definitely see that as like that would be fun for us to watch. But as a golfer, I would absolutely hate you.
Right, right.
Um, but so my tournament, I took I kind of took like a Ryder Cup or President's Cup approach to this. So you're gonna have 8 teams, and so your top 8 in the world, they are gonna be your 8 captains, and then they're gonna draft a team of. So they have to draft 7 more guys. And I want it to be a draft. Like let's sit down Tuesday night and kind of like let's make it like an all-star game. Like the NHL or the NBA. I think the NBA more so now. But let's
Wait,
sit down.
but after a couple years, are you gonna have to switch it around to stop hurting people's feelings? So you pick from worst to first.
No. But so your 8 captains, they go out there and they draft, in snake drafts or however they want to do it. But they draft their team of 8 to create it. You have I like the idea you brought in of let's go to a course like Torrey Pines that has two separate
Mhm.
courses to kind of speed this up a little bit. But regardless, you're gonna have four teams on the other on one side, four teams on the other. For the first 3 days, you're gonna play a round robin, just like now. So Wednesday through Friday, they do round robin. But we're gonna do it Thursday through Saturday. That's your round robin. At the end of the first 3 days, so coming in this Sunday morning, we're going to sit there. The top team from the left side is going to play the top team from the right side, all the way 1 through 4. So there's no cuts. You still have the top 64 players in the world. There's no cuts, so nobody really has to go home. You don't have to worry about television time being cut or anything like that. But you just have 1v1 the whole way, or 1v1, 2v2, so on and so forth. I think that'll be a lot more interesting. Keep fans engaged. I think that'll be great for TV partners. You don't have to worry about, kind of like what we saw this week is the championship match is a blowout, and all of a sudden they have 45 minutes left of
Mhm.
TV. Thank God, Scheffler and McIlroy were still playing, so they got some eyes to stay on there. But I think that keeps people a lot more engaged. I think it'll be a lot more fun for the players. And these guys having to strategize versus another team. Okay, who do I want to sit out there versus say Max Homa, and so on and so forth. So I think that'd just be a little bit more fun to see. So let's go ahead. Let's move over to the Valero Texas Open this week. We are going to make our fantasy picks. First, we're going to go back and look at our fantasy from last week and break that down for you guys. So, as we described to you on the show last week, what we did is we picked every group winner, all 16. Slade and I both went 6 and 16, so not great in the group stage rounds. Um, and then from there, we just did a bracket challenge. So you got 2 points for predicting the first round winner. You got 4 points for predicting the quarterfinals. It was sorry, 3 points for predicting the quarterfinals, 4 points for the semifinals. You got 10 points if you got the right winner, and 5 points if you predicted the correct third place finisher. Um, so looking at the first round, Slade, you got 8 points. Then you got 3 points in the quarterfinal, 0 points in the semifinal, and then you did not have the third place or the main event, the champion. Um, I got 12 first round points. I got 9 quarterfinal points, 4 semifinal points, and that was it for me. I had Scheffler winning third place, and he lost. You and I both got screwed by Max Homa. Uh, and then your other bad picks for the bracket.
Spawn.
You had Spawn going just about all the way. You also had Horschel and Cantlay, and they kind of stiffed you there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I picked up the win over everybody this week. I think by like 2 points or 5 points. I
Mhm.
beat Sam by 5 points. No, 1 point. That's right, because he had the third place. He had McElroy winning third. So I beat Sam by 1 point. So I gained a little bit of ground on Nick. I'm only 8 back at him, and I jump Slade into second place. So Slade, let's go ahead and give us your picks for fantasy this week at Valero.
Yeah. So the guy that needs it the most right now, Rickie Fowler. I talked to you beforehand. I'm disappointed that the PGA, are the expert picks and stuff like that. Everyone has Rickie Fowler at being on their roster, and it looks like right now about 60% of the people are taking Rickie Fowler to win. Um, it's never good for us, especially if the public and us are hoping that he wins. We can't put our money on him. But I'll do that anyway. The second is Chris Kirk. I think that he is going to be able to play really efficiently here, and I hope that just his ability to kind of keep it clean, no bogeys, is his way of making it in to at least the top 20. That would score me some points, and that would at least make me happy. It's the same thing with Sapon. It's supposed to be Spawn, JJ Spawn. He is in the same position as Kirk. I'm just hoping that he's able to get a top 20. I was hoping that last week he was the dark horse. I picked him. I think it was the only one to pick him in his opening match, basically, of bracket play. And I had picked him to end up beating Rory. I think it ended up real bad for me. But Siwoo Kim, I picked him just because I had seen that. I think you and Sam both had him. And I was between him and I think Davis, maybe, and I ended up going with him. I think that this is a little off because, or wait, no, I think I was between him and Hatton because I have Davis and Connors as my last two people. And
I think I was looking at mine when I picked yours.
oh, you're
But,
good. You're good. I did though. I would have picked Hatton, but I am betting against Hatton this week. So I didn't want to put him on my roster and bet against him. But Corey Connors, I think, is the best chance to. I think that might be who I put some actual outright money on. I think that he would be a good dark horse and someone that played pretty good last week, and that could get things started on the right track here for a little bit of a run. Obviously, not a Scheffler run, but maybe a top five here in the next 2 weeks, would be really nice.
yeah, definitely. All right, looking at my picks, I have pretty much the same exact lineup. Obviously, like you said, I accidentally put Hatton in your lineup, but he is in my lineup, and the only difference is I didn't have Connors. I replaced him with Ben Griffin. Um, looking at Hatton, he is a T2 at the Players, T4 at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and a top 40 at the Genesis. He also finished top 6 at the Waste Management Open. Not great at the match play, but it's good to build momentum there, but it's also difficult to judge a lot of these guys' performance from week to week and then going to a different kind of style tournament like that. While it is fun for us to watch, obviously it makes kind of judging it hard. So I'm not gonna put anything on him for that. But so I'm gonna take him this week, and then Griffin. The only other difference here from our lineups, 14 to 16 made cuts, top 27 at the Players. Also, I mean, if you think back, you look at the Saturday, he had a rough Saturday, but he was in that final group with Scheffler and Minwoo Lee. So he has the potential of being really good. I think he's progressed really well so far this year. Um, I'm expecting him to make a couple more jumps here. He also has one top 10 and six top 25s. So that's why I'm putting him in my lineup. So some from our college football show, if any of you guys watched that over the fall, is we make cash out picks. We're gonna start doing that with PGA Tour here. It was a little hard last week because it was, who's gonna win groups, and we already made those picks versus putting them bets. So from here on out, we're gonna start putting together a couple bets that we like each week for you guys. And so Slade, let's go ahead and you can go ahead and give us yours first.
Yeah, so I have kind of a parlay of top 20s, or tied for 20s at least. Again, dogs right now. I have Fowler, Sam Ryder, Kirk, and Davis all at finishing in the top 20. Really, the only one that I'm kind of worried about is Davis in this. I think the other three should be able to get in there, even into the top 15 possibly. But the fact that this was at plus 5,700. I went ahead and put $5 on it. I think it gives like almost $300 return. And then the second one is Fowler over Hatton at plus 134. I had talked to you beforehand and said that I think the reason why everyone is betting so much on Fowler right now is because last season he had to be like 75th or above, and he ended up getting it done on the last possible week. I think that it's just kind of expected that he's going to be able to get this done and get himself qualified or like an automatic bid into the Masters. This would be the week. I think that Hatton could be his biggest competition in that, especially based on what you had said with his accomplishments already this season. So I just have to bet against Hatton. What will end up happening is Fowler will end up taking like, I don't know, 15th or something like that. Hatton will take second. I'll lose the bet. Hatton won't be in my lineup because I didn't want him in my lineup. And you'll end up flying past Nick this week in points.
Yeah.
What about your bets?
Yeah. So before I get into mine, I just want to say, listen to Rickie. If you're watching this, if you're not going to get it done, it's okay. We're not expecting you. We want you to. Obviously, we'd love to see you at Augusta next week and win the green jacket. But we understand it's very difficult. But please, for the love of God, like if you're not going to do it, like finish, like Slade said, like finish T15. Please don't lose in like a putt on Sunday because I don't think my heart can take it, and I don't want to be crying driving home from Pennsylvania.
I'll
So
have to
just,
burn my orange Puma Polo if he
um,
loses on a putt on Sunday.
yeah. So, but without further ado, let's get into my picks. Um, so this was on DraftKings. I don't say I'm not sure where you got your odds, but my odds are from DraftKings,
Vandal.
and this was a parlay they had built in. They had a few for this week, and I just really like this one. I just saw it. This is obviously a little out there, plus 4,500 odds, but it's for Fowler to finish top five, Kuchar to finish a top 10, and Chris Kirk to finish at top 20. I think Kirk is the only lock here per se. Kuchar obviously coming off a very good weekend at the Dell Technologies match play. I don't think any expected him to win his group, and there he was. And then he gave a heck of a fight in the first round of the bracket too. Um, but he's a very good, consistent player. He loves Texas and he loves playing in that area. So I'm expecting to have a very good week. Again, this is what you and I like to consider, a lower field, a lesser field. These are the fields where guys like Kuchar shine through. And then Fowler to finish top five. Again, he's just building momentum and consistency throughout the year. He looked very good at match play. Just ran into Billy Horschel, who was dominant in his group play. Um, but again, the weight is on him. Hopefully, it's not too much. I would love to see him thrive under the pressure this week and not crumble. But we shall wait and see. But again, that's kind of my out there pick. What I would call my lock this week is Ben Griffin to finish in the top 20. Again, I just talked about it in fantasy. He's looked really good so far this year. He's continuing to put together solid finishes. And I think a top 20 finish is well within his grasp this week. So those are our cash out picks for the Valero Texas Open. Obviously, we'll
Your first one is a DraftKings only bet because I
okay.
tried to put it in on FanDuel and it's not. It's like you can't put these together or whatever.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
did
glad
notice
that
that
you
on.
said that it's DraftKings so that if anyone wants to bet that they can bet it because it's definitely a good bet like you had said.
Yeah,
But because I was gonna try and place it, I was like, it won't let me.
yeah. I've noticed that too, and I don't understand why FanDuel won't let you kind of build that parlay
Yeah,
of like. And I tried to do this last year with NASCAR when that one guy like won $1 million at the top 10 finishers of Daytona.
yeah,
The very next week, I tried to do it, and it's like, oh no, like you have to do this all single. I was all right, that's dumb, but
yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. FanDuel's got to get figured out, but I mean, hey, DraftKings, you should sponsor us. But without further ado, I also don't want to be remiss. Let's go back. And of course, it's time to bring up that our spring merch is live. So make sure you guys head over. Use the link in our bio to go check it out. These are all the designs we have out now. Remember, we have multiple colors, all different styles, t-shirts, women's, tank tops, all of it, sweatshirts, hats. We got it all. So make sure you head over there and check it out. Use the link in our bio or head to jack-merch.creator-spring.com. My God, that's a lot. Yeah, link in the bio is easier, but copy and paste this if you need to head over there and check it out. We really appreciate it. Got a lot of fun stuff over there for you guys. So now it is time for Slade and I's favorite segment of the week, what we call growing our game. I left up to Slade to pick this week, so I'll let him introduce it.
Yeah, so I kind of went a little different with this one, not necessarily what we had talked about last week and like what we would do different, but this one is kind of our goals on the season and what we want to try and accomplish personally with our golf. I kind of given examples to you; those were kind of my goals. So my goal is to kind of practice here at the beginning of the season. Obviously, I'm in Pennsylvania where there's a bunch of snow and stuff. You're in North Carolina where you could golf once a month right now, depending on the weather and so. I mean, you could probably golf every day if you wanted to
Yeah,
at some courses, but realistically,
my
you could
bank
golf
account
right
can't afford
now.
that.
Yeah, realistically, you can golf like every other weekend or whatever. This is pre-kid.
Yeah,
But but up here I can't. I could try and go, and I think they would only let me hit the driving range because every other day there's snow on the ground. Um, so once after kind of like 2 weeks, I'm gonna do a lot of practice and stuff like that. I'm gonna try and go the whole summer with not scoring over 120. I think that in our tournament that we did last year, we were all under 120. So I'm kind of hoping to try and keep it within that same score, so that I can whoop up on you guys again by one stroke.
yeah.
And then the other thing is I have a bad um, I have a consistency of doing three putts, and so I really want to cut down on that, and I want to go a whole round with no three putts. It's especially hard when you're at like a par five and you're like 100
Mhm.
yards out and you hit it onto the fringe. From there, I'm not chipping it, so I am gonna putt it. It's like 10 feet away still. Putt it again. It's like 2 feet away, and then you putt it for a third time and get lucky making it 2 feet. Um, so yeah, that's my two big goals for the summer, realistic goals that I'm gonna try and achieve. What about you?
Um, so my first one is kind of along the lines of the same putting one you made. So I'm documenting all my rounds. I was using an app before, but I kind of went away with that just because I don't like looking at my phone nonstop. I'm trying to get away from that in general. not doing a very good job so far, but I can definitely start in places like the golf course. And so I'm gonna write down all my rounds, and so I want my average to be for putts per hole to be under 2 across the entire year. I understand 3 putts are still gonna happen. I would love, like you said, I would love to go one full round with no 3 putts, and I'm definitely gonna celebrate when I do that. But I think for me, a more reachable goal would be to across the entire year, I have an average of under 2 putts. Um, my other goal is, to hit under well, first, just in general, have a more consistent score. Last year I broke 100 twice. I also shot 130s and 120s and all that. So I would love to get kind of a tighter grouping of my scores, and just be a lot more consistent. I would love to break 100 more consistently. I don't want it to be fluke occasions. I would love to, go out with you guys, or, go out with, my father-in-law, or my brother-in-laws, or my dad, or, anybody, and just go out there and shoot a really good round, and be happy, and not, have to sit there and get frustrated. I don't play well in front of people for some reason, but I go play by myself, and I play like I'm the next Tiger Woods. I don't get it, but um,
Hmm.
and so
What happens behind closed doors?
yeah.
I'm kidding.
Um, but I'm hoping to get my first fitted set of clubs this year. I'm hoping that kind of helps push things in that direction. But I've been practicing a lot. Like you said, I have a kid now. I can't go out and play a full round of golf. It's difficult. But I try to go out and practice at least once a week. Hannah and the baby like coming to the driving range and sitting there. Trying to get Hannah in the golf. The golf pro at the driving range last week walked up to her and said, "Hey, it's ladies' night. Why don't you come down?" So we're still working on her, trying to get her in the golf, but we'll see. But I'm
That
very
would make things
thankful
a lot
that
easier.
yeah, but I'm very thankful that she affords me those opportunities to go to the driving range, and we still get to spend time together, get out of the house. But I'm getting a lot of practice in. I can feel improvements, but then there's times where like I thought I had my driver figured out, and my new tip was going to help me, and I'm still slicing it, and then all of a sudden I hit a really good one. Um, I feel like my biggest problem with my practices is when I hit a really good shot, I will go to the next one, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything the same exact way, and I get a completely different result. So I mean that's another goal of mine, is to get more consistent with those, the shots. When I feel a good shot, okay, this is actually what's happening when I'm doing, this is my physics, my motion, and everything, as compared to a bad shot, and get better at that. But so those are my goals for 2023. But
So you're going to
uh,
become Matt Fitzpatrick and document every single shot from now for
yeah,
eternity.
oh yeah, no, I've worked with Hannah right now.
When we,
I found it's a company, it's called, I think, Always Grinding, is what their name is, but they make like round log books that you can use.
yeah,
But it's like $30 for one round. And so I'm just gonna go into Excel and make my own,
smart.
and see how that goes. But yeah, no, just trying to get a little bit more serious about it. Um, and I will say, so you brought up our tournament last year. Obviously, we're looking forward to doing more of those this year, and actually putting the video together and then publishing it for you guys. But I will say, Slade, I cheated on the last hole. You called me out on it, but you kind of let it go. I definitely grounded my club in the sand, and I took like 3 shots to get out. But you won either way, but I was
You
just,
know what's also funny?
I,
You mentioned about the video is that Zurich, who did his second his second degree during school for like editing and videography and everything like that. Every time I see him, he's like, "Yeah, see, you guys still didn't put out that video of you guys golf tours and whatever." He's like, "Be ashamed that you can't just like send this stuff to somebody and then just put it together and up on YouTube for you." I'm like, "Yeah, well,
that'd be too
you're at
easy.
wrestling practice and work, and like
Yeah,
what time do you have to do this or whatever?" He's like, "Well, I'm just saying, it'd be nice if you had someone like that." I'm like,
yeah.
"Shut up."
So he can come out with us this summer and film for us. So.
Yeah.
But alrighty, well, that will do it for Bunker Boys this week. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. As always, of course, one last reminder before we go: W.GG. Use code Jackwagon for 10% off your order and help us out. It's a great product. I've used it more than I have coffee. I have a newborn here at the house, and so I love using W. It gives me a little bit more energy when I don't feel like making a full pot of coffee. And then, last but not least, don't forget to head over and check out our merch. Our spring golf merch is live now. So make sure you guys check that out. All different designs, men's, women's. And so go over there and check all that out. Link in the bio of all of
I
our
would
social
not be
medias.
surprised if we have a video or a picture to post this summer of Nick in a tank top with the WWDD
Oh, 100%.
logo on it, because I mean that and a mullet.
Yeah, it's a match made in heaven. But we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for checking us out. We'll be back next week to break down the Valero and get you ready for the Masters. We're so excited. We're gonna have a full show for you guys. So make sure you come back and check that out. We'll see you in the next episode.